Alrighty here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's discuss the difference between the occult and that of a cult. Okay. Earlier today, I got on Facebook and yet saw another dumbass that really didn't understand the difference between being a practitioner and being a part of a cult. This guy's name was Simon, and I'm not going to give the last name because that's between the individual in the group and everything that this individual posted it. He was in a discussion with a mediator in the group, and it was based over his post on that he wanted to have sex with Satan. Okay. Now, the thing is, I've seen this type of attitude and perspective being posted quite a bit on Facebook. And it's really astonishing the level of stupidity that individuals have. But in actuality, it is not necessarily their views. It's not necessarily their fault because their perspectives on these beings are clouded by the Judeo system of Christianity, the Hebraic systems. But not just that. You have the Book of Enoch. You've got Hollywood. You've got the social media. So many things have been made into sexism over the years that it's more psychological now. Men are warriors, women are sex objects. But yet at the same time, it's always about religion. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 6, or 1 through 5, depending on the translation, talks about how Azazel and the tens of tens descended from heaven after Azazel made a pact with Shemyaza. And they had relations with the daughters of men. The daughters of men. And these individuals who descended down to the earthly plane took these women as wives. Wives. Not husbands, but wives. Okay? And they bore Nephilim unto them. Okay? Basically, the Nephilim means wise and renowned, or old and renowned. Okay? So, in this case, this goes along with the book of Enoch. And what's interesting to note here is that in the book of Enoch, these angels paid the ultimate price. They were imprisoned, according to chapters 10 through 18, okay, for their inappropriate actions with the daughters of men, creating, leading others into a state of dissension, of ranks, the corruption, the whole kit and caboodle, and most importantly, sharing with humankind the knowledge of the celestial realms. Okay, this could actually be traced back to the Greek pantheon. Okay, but before we get to the Greek pantheon, let's go back to the Roman pantheon. This goes along with Lucifer's fall from grace. He fell due to pride because he would not bow down to Adam and Eve. He would rather have been seen as equal, being made of fire versus clay. Okay. Now, it's said that he fell in Roman literature. Lucifer fell from the heavens like a ball of flame, which goes exactly with the time of Aquarius, which is January and February. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is that in the Babylonian times, it was Venus that set in the west, fell from the heavens in the west, and rose in the east between January 15th and January 18th. 3 days. Okay. But where have we heard this story before? Let's go back into the ancient Greek, the Mesopotamian, Syriac, Akkadian. Okay. But most importantly, the Greek pantheon. The Greek god Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to mankind. And thus, he was punished by being chained to the side of a mountain to have his liver eaten by vultures for all eternity, over and over and over again, by Zeus, the god, the king of the celestial realms. Kind of like the story of Tiamat versus Marduk. Same thing. She was the dragon of chaos. Marduk slaughtered her. Showed his power. Okay. So what's interesting to note is that it's really not a far-fetched aspect or perception that these individuals have to want to have sex with these angels, such as Lucifer or Satan. Okay. But in this case, this individual was not interested in anything, not knowledge, not anything else. He basically simply wanted to have sexual relations with Satan. Basically mistaken Satan for a succubus or an incubus. Okay. Now, we all know that an incubus or a succubus is basically a sex demon. Okay. Male and female sex demons. Now, this individual obviously didn't realize this because of his statement. It was bold, it was straightforward, and it was direct to the point. And the mediator in the group actually took offense to this and called him out. He said, "Yo, let's talk about this." So, by the time I came across this, there was at least a good lengthy discussion between three different individuals, including this Simon guy and the mediator. So I basically posted my thoughts on it and told him, I said, "You're mistaking him for a incubus or a succubus, because if you had actually took the time to research your history and the mythologies, you would know this. If you were going to call upon one of these beings, such as Satan, Lucifer, Samael, or Azazel, it is out of respect, for they can share with us many secrets. But what you're trying to do or desiring to do within your bold statement really shows that you have zero knowledge of occultism." But again, this goes right back to the Judeo-Christian Bible. Namely because not only did the angels in chapter 6, verses 1 through 6 or 1 through 5, have relations with daughters of men. But there's another story later on, Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? And what's interesting to show here is that it shows a bunch of men wanting to have relationships with two angels. Now, the righteous Hebrew or Jew, whichever one you want to picture him to be, basically offered his virgin daughters to these guys in exchange for them to leave these two angels alone. But they were so focused on that they basically just shoved the virgin women out of the way and said, we just want the guys. And this is what their view is of occultism. But if you think about it, the Bible itself is nothing more than a grimoire of not only demonology or angelology, because there's a total of 15 different entities, minus that of Jehovah, okay, 16 if you count him, and that, okay, and Satan within the Bible. But here's the thing. The Bible itself is a big orgy, plain and simple. It shows just about every other chapter has some form of incest, rape, murder, war, betrayal, you name it. There is everything from prostitution to incest to adultery, you name it. It's in the Bible. And this is sadly where all this views are coming from, because it dwindled from the church to the Judeo-Christian church to Hollywood, and another prime example of ignorance. And it didn't help that Anton Szandor LaVey wrote about lust rituals and everything in the Satanic Bible, because this set foot for today's work, for today's viewpoints of witchcraft in Hollywood within the terms of the desirous self-gratification of lustful meanings towards women or men, depending on your gender or what you're interested in. So not only do we have today, we have lesbians, we have gays, bisexuals, the pansexuals, and who really knows what else is out there, because I really don't give a shit on that topic. But here's the thing. A lot of this faction of these thought forums have gone into a number of cults over the years. Now, when we look back the last, say, 20 years, we see Waco. We see sex cults that are taking place out by Nevada, Reno, perhaps even Arizona, New Mexico regions, where ex-members are trying to rescue young women who are trying to escape that world. You got people being forced into human trafficking or that of prostitution rings. You got those like groups like Rose McGowan came from back before she became a big star. And her coven, or her the cult that she came from, was actually out of Seattle, or was it Seattle? It was either Seattle or Orrington area. Can't remember off the hand, but it was one of them. But you see my point. We got all of this stuff. And over the last 2 years, as a teacher and a guide, a spiritual guide, the owner and founder of the Order of the Black Thorn, I've gotten a lot of messages from these guys, these individuals who basically they're not interested in enlightenment. They're not interested in occultism. They're not interested in any of these rituals or ceremonies, bettering themselves through knowledge and wisdom and understanding. No. You type something or you do a video like the one I'm doing right now, and all you do is you get a number of replies about all I want to do is go. There's no better way to go out than in an orgasmic bliss with another guy. And it's like, seriously, what the fuck? What the fuck? Seriously. And if this doesn't take the cake, you got all these individuals that's wanting to be a part of the Illuminati. And this is a whole nother scam. This is a whole nother cult in itself. I can't tell you how many people have come to me asking me about my thoughts on the Illuminati. Because you got that in the third world countries. You got that here in America. You got a whole nother branch, a division right here in America, pretending to be a part of the great Illuminati, giving a phone number. But what they don't realize is it is just a scam. It's not about you getting rich. It's about them getting rich. My own student, one of my own personal students was contacted by one of these guys and wanted him to join. So my student came to me after saying, hey, I'll join if my teacher can join. And he goes, oh, yeah. Come on in. More the better. Well, the guy wanted $50 right off the bat. A couple days later, my student comes to me and he says he wants $150 just for the initiation into the Illuminati. And that's really a sad fact of cultism, of those in the occult. Not in the occult, but in a cult, I should say. Because of the fact that, number one, cults are criminals. They're associated with crime syndicates, criminal activities. Occultism is something completely different. It is about the arts and the practices worldwide. Think of the term sorcery. A sorcerer doesn't limit him or herself to one style, tradition, or form, but rises above to master all of them. Hans Holzer, in his book Witches, actually speaks on this. In one of the chapter based off wizards, warlocks, and sorcerers, where he says that a warlock is a male practitioner who masters what he can get his hands on. In most cases, it is some form of conjuration. Okay? So you see the difference. He even went as far as explaining the sleight of hand tricks from modern day illusionists. Okay? This is occultism. Not wanting to end your life in a gay orgy. Not in some form of criminal activity. That's nothing more than a cult who tries to limit you to their way of thinking. And the sad part is that they will lead and they will do whatever it takes to lead you down another path, a path of dissolution. a path of self-destruction. They will do whatever it takes to keep you down. That is what a cult does. You take Telia Curtis, also known as Telia Petrova nowadays. Now, I can't tell you if she's changed her name since that one, but what I can tell you is that she was the founder of the Children of the Serpent, the Children of the Serpents. Okay, group on Facebook. Now she's got videos here on YouTube. She's got stuff, she's got a web page on Facebook and everything like that. And she's led so many to a state of how should I say this? Destruction. Led them down a dead end path. Her own girlfriend wants nothing to do with her. Her best friend that she grew up down the street from her wants nothing to do with her. Basically, everybody has left this woman because of her lies and her deceit. She came at me because I put her in her place with actual fact about the First Amendment. And the fact that at the time, I actually book right in my lap, literally, from the Bangor Public Library, no less. So I had pages just on freedom of religion. Because at the time, I was getting into the political aspects of Satanism, of the arts and practices, and what established religions are actually recognized as for having, such as a physical foundation, such as having a philosophical rule book that they go by. Think doctrines like the Bible or the Quran, the Satanic Bible, the Wiccan Bible, the Witches Bible. Okay? These are all recognized materials. Doctrines is what they are referred to as. Okay? Physical constructs of buildings, such as temples, orders, churches even, are considered to be recognized religious foundations. And here you have somebody claiming to have worked for the U.S. government. If you were smart enough to work for the U.S. government, you would know what a protected religion is and what it means to be an established religion. And what it takes to be recognized as a religious foundation. She had no clue, but instead, she tried arguing, and when shown actual proof, banned me from her group. A teacher that she put in place because she had no knowledge. Now, what's ironic is this is happening more and more on Facebook, on social media. And it's really a sad fact that people have to deceive others and lead them down a desolate road, a desolate path, a path of destruction and anguish. And yet, she claims point blank, and you can actually watch her videos. I have friends that can actually share the conversations that they've had with her. In one aspect, she claims not to believe, literally not to be a Satanist. But yet, at the same time, she's praising Satan and thanking him for allowing her to be a Satanist. This kind of reminds me of an individual, John Ramirez, a big-time Christian out in the Southwest, who basically claims to have been, in one video, claims to be an ex Palo Mayumbi practitioner, an ex Santeria practitioner. Saved by God just because he met a woman. Okay? But yet, in another video, he claims to be an ex-devil worshiper. And another, he claims to be an ex-Satanist. And in another, he actually claims to be a prophet of God. Now, anybody who's ever done any research within the Hebraic systems will tell you there has not been a prophet since Jesus Christ. Okay? This is a fact. After the apostles died off, there was nobody. This explains why they sunk into such hardships of human terror. The burning times, the holy wars, the crusades. It's because they had nobody to lead them. The Hebraic systems have formed nothing more than a cult for themselves. Faction against faction. Baptists against apostolics. Apostolics against Pentecostals. Jehovah's Witnesses against everybody else. And then you have Catholics that basically create, well, let's just say they label you as a number and leave it at that. It's all fire and brimstone if you don't do their bidding. Believe what you're told, like good little children. But as soon as you start learning and calling them out on their shit, you're labeled the Antichrist. You're labeled a warlock, which nowadays means oathbreaker and betrayer. Whereas in the past, a warlock was an honored stature associated with their counterpart, the witch. Everybody from Hans Holzer to Christopher Penziak, two of the greatest practitioners out there, have spoken on this. And it's not just them. Paul Huzon, Peter Haney also have spoken on it. Christian Day has also spoken on the topic. And yet, all these groups from covens to orders, churches, religious foundations are all about money and power. Money brings power. Look at Trump. You don't do what he says, you're fired. Or in this case, the entire freaking government shuts down, just like with the last president. Although, to be fair, at least he only had it shut down once. From what I understand, the government is actually beginning to shut down again. Twice in one term. Pretty impressive for a billionaire. But anyways, my point is this. Learn the difference between occult and occult. And you will see the difference, because there is a huge difference in them. Learn your history. Learn the terminology. Don't stick to one region. Look at all regions. Because the Welsh is different from Germanic. Germanic is different from Indo-European. And Indo-European is different from Anglo-Saxon. Anybody who's done their research can tell you that. And a lot of things have been destroyed due to the religious conflicts of the world. So again, you really have to do your own homework and stop accepting things at face value. I've seen where these things go. When they don't get their own way, they block you, they ban you, they basically shun you. And that's a sad fact for the world, because nobody rises to become the sorcerer or sorceress they're meant to be. They stay in the slumps of division and adversities. The worldly things, they don't rise above it to become better. They get lost in the world. The humanistic stupidities. What's that old expression from the Church of Satan? If stupidity was painful, people would learn. Problem is today is nobody wants to learn, including the Church of Satan, which is hilarious. These atheistic morons that sit there and claim not to believe in Satan, but yet take his name. They practice his will, call on the demons and everything, but yet at the same time deny them. It's like, come on, people. Do you see the duality here? Do you see your stupidity? Learn from history. A man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. Give a man a fish, feeds him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, feeds him for life. Get the point? 2 proverbs. I want you to remember those 2. Because in the old days, knowledge was passed down from teacher to student, from master to apprentice. Verbal, such as in the Druid tradition, in ancient Gaelic traditions. In the time of Aramaic, they didn't write, they taught, they drew, they created pictographs, the caveman styles. Each portion of the world is different in this way, but at the same time similar. You're only limited due to your own nature. Your own actions limit you. Learn to get out of your way. Learn from history. Learn your mythology. And stop combining things that don't go together. A cult has nothing to do with occultism, just like the Illuminati has nothing to do with Satanism. The only reason these 2 are considered to be the same thing is because of the Brotherhood of Satan. The Satanic Illuminati. It's a council of ruling members, such as that of the Order of the Nine within the COS, the Church of Satan. But the Illuminati was and is a Hollywood-produced idea. People have just taken it and threw it into their worldviews. There have been a lot of secret societies throughout the years. Hell, throughout the centuries, from the Masons to the Hellfire Club, the Order of the Nine, even to the Skull and Bones. But yet, people combine things because they don't know any better. America is said to be based off higher education. But yet, when I look at the world, I see nothing but stupidity, especially in this country. Ignorance is bliss. Christians would rather put their faces in the proverbial sandbox than to deal with shit. You stand up to them, they run like little bitches. I lived in Texas for 6 months. In one fell swoop, one move, I made the ruling faction regret the day they ever made rumors about me. That they ever chose to target me or my friends, who were neo-pagans, by the way. And by pulling on that one proverbial thread, they lost their bishop, who was removed from his parish and transferred to a whole nother section of hell, namely down by El Paso, Texas. They were fined heavily by the American Civil Liberties Union. And on top of that, the Department of Justice rolled through and did the same thing. The Catholic Church bought a property that was basically worthless because they did not learn from history. They were ignorant. They assumed cult and occultism were one and the same. We have long memories. We remember, they say. Well, apparently you didn't remember those two things are separate. But yet when I make a joke about coming down and cooling things down there, like the whole 6 months I was there before, that I was told it never dropped below 50 degrees, and yet it was down by 25, 30 degrees just about the whole time I was down there, minus the week that it was around 14 degrees due to an ice storm. You got 50 people begging for me not to come down. Interesting, isn't it? The only person that you have to hold accountable is yourself. Plain and simple. So before you decide to take things at face value, my advice is to take a step back and do your own homework. Learn for yourself, not for someone else. Don't take my advice for it. Do your own research, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Until next time, have a good day or night wherever you are. This Dark Sorcerer is out.